This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with Sean Anderson.
What's up?
And we
I don't
are
know what
talking,
to say.
Well,
I don't know what to say.
You don't have a catchy, like...
No, because I'm usually on that side.
Here's the problem. You're on the fast break. You're on this side.
Yeah.
So it's like they hear your voice right away. You don't have a dub them ease. You don't have a hey, hey, hey. You don't have a what's up, what's up.
No, I don't.
No.
And that's why I was
Do we need
speaking
to come
Spanish
up,
one time.
Do we need to come up with... You said
No.
me amo Sean.
Yeah, I don't want to be on the side of the table. That's why when Brandon was like, I want Sean to host the MLB podcast when we do it, I was like, yes, please, Brandon.
I would like that too, because I host almost everything
So
except
then why
for
am I not hosting
3
this
podcasts.
segment?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we could.
It's your fault.
Maybe
It's
next
your
time.
fault.
Maybe next time it's me and you. I'll let you
Blame
sit on
yourself.
this side of the table. But we're talking some baseball today. One thing I will say is the idea we threw out last week is we're trying to crowdsource a name for maybe we make this into a full weekly podcast. Have 3 topics instead of just the one
Spin
for
rate.
you guys. The spin rate?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of like that one.
Because we have our spins.
The one thing I'll tell
It's
the
baseball
listeners,
term.
very not exact name idea, but to play off of, we have 6 podcasts at MVP.
Mm-hmm.
This one would be the 7th one, so we could play off of the 7th inning stretch. But we got some great responses last week. If you're new, let us know what you guys would want our baseball podcast to be named. Like I said, trying to make this maybe from 1 segment a week to 3 segments a week. But what we're looking at, before we get into that, housekeeping, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. If you want to help support us, MVP store link in the description to buy an MVP t-shirt, mostvaluablepodcast.com, where you can get your MVP each and every day. And last but not least, if you're on iTunes, you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure to rate the Primetime Podcast, the Fast Break, Ricky Johnny Podcast, and the Onside Kick 5 stars, and let people know why you like listening to them. But what we're looking at today, Sean, Robinson Cano hit with a PED suspension.
And I want to throw this out there
Okay.
before we do this, because we talked about it before, because he was hit in the hand during the game between Detroit back, I think it was on Sunday. Got hit in the hand, looked bad, broke his hand. This was before.
Well, he was in a little cast after the game.
Yeah, this came out before he was popped for PEDs. His time on the DL does count. The MLB said that Cano's time on the disabled list will count towards his 8-game suspension. So that was something that was up in the air. Baseball's drug program does not distinguish between a healthy player and an unhealthy player.
So really, it doesn't matter for the Mariners because he's out anyway.
Yeah, he's out anyways, and after 80 games, if he's healthy, he'll be playing for the Mariners. So that's one thing that we weren't really sure on before, so I didn't want to throw it out there. But yeah, he gets popped for a diuretic. Test positive, which violates the MLB drug prevention. And you threw out the idea of just talking about how it affects the Mariners, what this means. But I think this is going to be more for at least his Hall of Fame potential, because to me, Robinson Cano is a top 5 possibly second baseman of all time. Probably the best power hitting second baseman of all time. Some people will say Jeff Kent, but right now Cano is second all time in the home run leaders behind Kent. Kent hit 377. Robbie Cano hit 305 right now. I think Cano will add on to that. Cano, in my mind, one of the best power-hitting second basemen I've ever seen for sure. I think he was easily a Hall of Famer because he was unblemished. I mean, this was a guy that, a little bit out of the steroid era, still in it because I think he started his career around 2004, 2005. So around the time where that was kind of dying off, but people were still doing it, he was one of the clean guys, always great on the field, one of the nice, bubbly personalities, also a guy that was clean, former Yankee, goes over, gets that massive contract with Seattle. I thought he was a for sure Hall of Famer, and now this comes out, and I'm like, well, with the way that people view steroid users, how will this affect his at least his Hall of Fame campaign? Because technically it's not really a PED. He wasn't popped for steroids. He was popped for a diuretic, which is seen as a masking agent for steroids. So they really didn't find steroids in his system. They just found a diuretic, which will help mask a steroid.
And that's the confusion with this, because he came out immediately with a statement saying, you know what, I have never taken PEDs. I never will take PEDs. This was something that when I saw doctors in the Dominican Republic, they gave me this for a non-PED issue. Hey, you know what? It's my responsibility. I should have known what I was putting in my body and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But for me, this is one where, number one, you should know what you're putting into your body, because I'll tell you what, if my job said, hey, you know what, here's a list of things we don't want to find in a drug test, you could be popped for one. I value my job, and I value getting a paycheck each and every week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure that those are not in my system if my job had that. But for me, I am very conflicted when it comes to his Hall of Fame legacy, because I think that the answer is yes, it will, because the general Hall of Fame voters will be like, oh, PEDs, no. But to me, and I know that some may not be on this fence, I know Buzz is a very no PEDs, like the Sammy Sosa debate that the Outcast had. Juice was like, yeah, you know what, he said he's sorry, welcome him back. Buzzweed went, no, fuck that, he's taking PEDs, we shouldn't, like, don't allow him back. I look at it and I go, I could really, I could care less if my baseball players are taking PEDs.
Now, I'm on the fence of Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Roger Clemens, who were great players with or without PEDs. Did it enhance their performance? Of course. That's why it's in the fucking name. Performance-enhancing drugs. It's going to help
Barry
them
Bonds is a big example.
It's going to help him hit 73 home runs, but also, I mean, it didn't help him get a 602 on-base percentage or whatever it was. I mean, Barry Bonds won, I think, 5 MVPs before he even started popping. So, I mean, he was already a Hall of Famer well before he started popping, when he was with the, his early days with the Giants, and also back when he was a Pirate. I mean, he was a for sure Hall of Famer after his 10th year in the league. Roger Clemens was one of the most dominant pitchers ever before he even touched a Blue Jays uniform, before he even touched a Yankees or Astros uniform. He already dominated the AL pitching. So, and A-Rod, again, another guy too, before he hit Texas, possibly even could have been a Hall of Famer just because of his career in Seattle. One of the best pure baseball players ever. Hit near 700 home runs, would have hit 600 without steroids. Was one of the most fantastic defensive shortstops and third basemen in the league. He was a guy that was, 3 for sure Hall of Famers that would have been Hall of Famers with or without PEDs. And I just look at it as, everyone else was doing it. And I know people are saying, well, if everyone else is jumping off a bridge, would you do it too? Well, if it's going to affect my pay, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I don't think it should be taken into effect, but clearly it has been. Clemens hasn't been voted in. Bonds hasn't been voted in. I don't think A-Rod will be getting that high of return value when he is first available on the ballot. So, and we even see guys like Larry Walker not in. Great power hitter. I don't think he was named in the Mitchell report. So this has been something that baseball writers haven't been putting in PED users. So if they see this as him using PEDs, Robinson Cano, it will definitely at least hurt his ability to get in first ballot.
And the way I look at it is, like I said a few moments ago, I couldn't care less if my baseball players are using PEDs, because to me, as a fan, I want the most entertaining, and I know that some people are going to say, oh, Ricky, you're just stealing a Daniel Tosh bit, but hey, he hit the nail on the head with it. I want this game to be the most entertaining. That's what I want. And it's interesting where baseball is right now, because when I was a kid, 7, 8 years old, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire home run race. We're all entoused in this. Then you've got the Barry Bonds, the 73 home run race. When you look at it now, after they came down with the whole PED thing, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have done that, but now we live in an era where the most guys we're talking about, like Aaron Judge is kind of like an outlier in this, because he's doing it.
More homers. I know, but we've seen the past 2 years. We've seen the most homers in all of baseball that we've ever seen. This is coming to a strikeout walk, home run league. That's all it's coming into.
But what I think we are seeing more, and for me, I'm kind of on the fence about it, because if a pitcher has a perfect game, me personally, I'm gonna watch that, because it's like, holy shit, can he do it? Can he pull off a perfect game? Even a no hitter, holy shit, can he pull this off? But the thing I worry about, and I'm not saying PEDs is the answer for this, but if PEDs, maybe the hitter has a little bit of an advantage because of it, a casual fan, are they going to come in, man, this team scored 0 points, it's a 6-0 game, yeah, this pitcher was great, but man, boring.
See, I think the thing with that is I disagree with you on the fact that you know, it was better back in the 90s because people were juicing.
Well, there's a nostalgic to it too. I was a 7-year-old kid.
I think that's the big thing is I mean, you look at today, there are more just better hitters than there ever has been in baseball.
Like the NBA, and they're taking care of their bodies better too across the board with any sport.
But I think another thing too is I mean, PEDs don't affect your ability to put the head of a baseball bat on a 94-mile-per-hour fastball. I mean,
should be impossible.
I mean, that's the thing is, like, you know, maybe, I mean, Luis Gonzalez, a guy that was clearly juicing, and I think that 2001 day where he was hitting 40 home runs, I mean, he was a great hitter. He was consistently getting on base.
With the purple D-backs.
He was consistently, you know, knocking, base knocks consistently left and right. But when you see a massive power surge, that's where a guy's, you know, numbers are inflated. But I think it's something, again, where baseball is still great, and I think people need to get away from, you know, PEDs make the game better. PEDs just, you know, saw a power surge from certain players, but it didn't make the game better. I don't think the game's tainted with or without PEDs, but I think everyone should at least be in a level playing field. So if everyone was using it back then, all the great players were using it back then, I don't think it should tarnish those players like Bonds and like McGuire and like A-Rods and Clemens.
The thing that I didn't mention too is there were some guys that you hear in interviews where it's like, yeah, I took PEDs back in the day because it was I either take PEDs to try to make this major league roster, or I don't stand up with the guys who were, and then I'm on a AAA team and I'm eventually fizzled out.
It's going to affect your pay. I mean, that's the big thing. So, but now I think it's a different mindset, and I think people are also coming back. And I think this is where we need to talk about Robinson Cano. Is I think it's going to be important to see how A-Rod's voted in, how Bonds is voted in, and how Clemens is voted in. If the at least mindset on these players does change, and if these players eventually do get in to the Hall of Fame, and that's going to help Robbie Cano at least Hall of Fame career, because I think he still probably will play until he's 40 years old. Right now he's 35, so he's still got 5 more years. I mean, he's got the additional 5 years you need to wait before you're Hall eligible. So he's got 10 years before he's probably at least up for Hall of Fame voting. He's got 10 years for at least baseball writers to at least change their mindset on PED users. And I think the biggest thing is going to be Alex Rodriguez for those voters, because A-Rod has been a media darling so far. A-Rod has been sorry. He's come out and kind of rechanged his image from what he was on the Yankees. And I think people, if they realize that A-Rod was a great baseball player, I think that is going to help him get put into the Hall of Fame. And then I think the same will be said for Robbie Cano, because again, he wasn't a guy that is like, you know, McGuire, where he's popping out of his shirt, or Bonds, who used to be the skinny kid back in Pittsburgh. And even his early days in 94, 95 in San Francisco, again, turning into a completely different player in 2004, where he's like popping out of his shirt. Like Robbie Cano has always been the same built guy. I don't think PEDs mean as much as they used to, and I think if baseball writers start to at least come on the right direction, which is again, it's something that really didn't affect the game too much. Maybe we saw more of a power surge. And clearly, again, like a guy like Luis Gonzalez, who hit 57 home runs, I just checked that. And that was a clear outlier, because I don't think he hit over 40 outside of that year. You know, maybe that's a big thing that's going to at least, you know, change the game. But I don't think the majority of baseball writers are going to taint Robbie Cano because he was popped for a diuretic and not for actual steroids. If this was something where, again, it was like the Mitchell report again, where it's coming out all these guys are using, then that might taint Robbie Cano. But again, this is one instance. If he's able to at least change his image, if he's able to at least come out and just get past it, because guys like D. Gordon got popped for the same thing. Well, at least got a PED suspension, and you know, D. Gordon's obviously different because he's a speedster, and really isn't knocking bombs. But again, if he's, you know, most people just don't remember D. Gordon's suspension. If Robbie Cano is at least able to put that out of the mind of people, I think that's going to be something where, again, Robbie Cano should be getting into the Hall of Fame, because he is just a great natural baseball player.
And I mean, that's the thing of when you said it, it's a diuretic he got popped for. He didn't get popped for an actual steroid.
Yeah,
so
get popped
to me,
for like anabolics.
To me, it goes down to, do you think he's lying? And I think that the general populace is going to come in and say, yes, he is. Because based off of, like, I feel like there'll be a camp that's like, well, if it's meant to hide, why were you taking it? if you why would you take it if not to hide this? There'll be another camp that's like, whatever, it's a diuretic, it's not a PED. And then there's going to be people in the middle that are like, I don't know what to think about this. Was he hiding it? Was he not? To me, I don't think it should affect his legacy. It was a diuretic. He said that, and I know it all goes down to what do you believe, but he said never have taken them. A doctor gave him this for an unrelated, a different reason. He should have said, hey, you know what, this was on the list, I can't take it, and then go ahead. Because even a doctor, if it was a U.S. doctor, that might have been different, where it might have been like, hey, you know what, this guy, in the U.S., this guy should have then know the rules a little bit more. I feel like the fact that it was a Dominican Republic doctor, then it's like a doctor in the DR is not going to care about what the rules for the MLB are.
But why? You're dealing with an MLB player. I think that's just obtuse to say a Dominican doctor won't know the same as an MLB, at least as a U.S. doctor. Because a U.S. doctor, again, it doesn't mean they know the rules of the MLB. I think this could be something, again, this is probably going into medical situations. Robbie Cano is a 35-year-old man. Yeah. I mean, we know kidney stones are a thing. This is usually when they start popping up. And diuretics are used to at least increase the production of urine. So maybe Robbie Cano was dealing with, something like kidney stones. I don't think that's ever going to come out what he was dealing with. I think that's probably going to hurt him. But also, Robbie Cano is a guy that is at least has a very good image in baseball, and I think people won't be seeing him as lying. I think the biggest thing for him was just accepting the suspension and moving on. Because again, the diuretic was still banned. So it wasn't he wasn't popped for steroids. He was popped for a diuretic, and he's accepting that he took the diuretic. So again, people might be able to at least it
wasn't
bring
like
up theories and
how
conspiracy,
did this get in there?
Conspiracies on what was actually what he was taking it for. But he's coming up clean, saying, "I took the diuretic. I did something wrong." It's linked to PEDs, but it isn't an anabolic steroid like we used to be seeing in the heyday of the 90s with McGuire and all these guys juicing. Here's
what I want to ask you here at the end, and this is what I originally threw out, and then you threw out the legacy discussion, but I do want to throw this at the end of it.
Are we talking M's?
Basically the M's of yes, because maybe this isn't a huge deal because of what you said, that the injury, he's still serving the suspension while injured. Whether it's the injury, whether it's the suspension, you were one that said the M's gonna go on a roll to challenge in their division. How does this then affect them the rest of the year now that we're a week later?
It clearly hurts them. I mean, the biggest thing so far for the
Mariners. The Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, the biggest thing for the Mariners so far has been their lineup. Yeah. And you're losing a guy in Robbie Cano who, again, isn't the old Robbie Cano, but he's still having a productive year. I think he had 4 home runs by the time he hurt his hand. He was batting like .287 with around 333 OBP and I think a slugging of like 450 something. So, I mean, he was having a good year. He wasn't having one of his best years, but still at the age of 35 was having a good year, was still one of the best hitting second basemen in the league, probably outside of Altuve. Altuve's on a completely different tier though. So I mean, again, it's clearly going to hurt them because now this is going to shift D. Gordon back to second base, which isn't going to hurt them defensively because again, D. Gordon is a natural second baseman, was put out in the outfield because of his speed. You're going to lose power clearly. I mean, D. Gordon can get on base, can steal some bags for you, but you're now going to have to sub in a guy like Ben Gamel into center field, and that's going to be something that's going to be interesting because at points last year, Ben Gamel was a guy that was producing for the Seattle Mariners, but is he going to be able, is him and at least D. Gordon, are they going to at least be able to combine enough to make up for Robinson Cano is leaving behind? Cano's not going to be back until August 14th. That's when the 80 games is up, even though we don't know how that hand's going to recover. Most likely he will be back by August 14th, but this is going to be a massive stretch where this pitching for Seattle, clearly James Paxton, who had a ridiculous back-to-back 2 starts, throwing 16 strikeouts in one and then having a no-hitter in the other, he's going to need to be an absolute stud. You have to look at guys like Mike Leake. You have to see what King Felix still has in the tank. This Seattle team is taking a major blow. Nelson Cruz even got banged up in their last game as well. He took, I think, a ball off a foot. I think it actually did come back negative, which is good for Seattle. But again, this is the team where Nelson Cruz is now your main power source, and he's a guy that is still a little bit older. I mean, this guy's like 36, 37 years old. And then you look outside of that, D. Gordon's up there. Ryan Healy, your first baseman, still a young and up-and-comer. Will he be able to do that consistently? One of the guys that have been a mainstay for Seattle, Kyle Seager. Will he be able to do enough? So this offense is going to take a major blow, and that's been so far the biggest positive for Seattle so far. So I think this clearly hurts their playoff chances. I think now it really separates the Angels and the Astros in the AL West. I'll still put the Stros number one because I know they just roughed up Garrett Cole in his last outing. I think he gave up 3 earned runs and Justin Upton took him deep, but still you have 4 Cy Young candidates right there, and Charlie Morton, Dallas Keuchel, Justin Verlander, and Garrett Cole, and then also your fifth starter, Lance McCullers. I mean, you have an unreal rotation there, and that lineup is ungodly. I mean, you look at Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, et cetera, that whole lineup, Bregman as well, Springer. I mean, they have one of the most complete teams in the MLB, and the Astros, and then the Angels too. If their pitching's there, they are a much better team than the Mariners because you have the best player in baseball, Mike Trout. Shohei Ohtani's been unreal. So I think that AL West is now going to be a 2-team race, and it's probably going to take the Mariners out of it unless this offense is able to make up for Robbie Cano's
and that's why
production.
I think out of this, the Angels have to capitalize off of it. Like we can't.
Well, it also makes their job easier.
Well, it makes it easier, but
they're
we
not going to
can't
be fighting with the Mariners for a wild card.
We can't see the Angels because baseball's a long year. We can't see the Angels go on a tear where it's like, man, they're really slumping right now. I don't expect that to happen. But like if they go into a slump and the Mariners kind of keep within it, and when Robinson Cano comes back, if he comes back this year, then it'll be a different story. They need to capitalize and kind of take that gap and just increase it and make it so big that the Mariners can't come back.
The biggest thing for Los Angeles is going to be health. I mean, you have Ian Kinsler, who, again, when healthy, he's a good player, but a guy that's consistently dealt with injuries before. Justin Upton has injury problems. Albert Pujols is way past his prime and is super vulnerable to injuries so far. You look at that rotation as well. Tyler Skaggs has injury issues. Garrett Richards has injury issues. Shohei Ohtani, in his last year in Japan, also had injury issues. How will being a DH and a pitcher affect his ability and his longevity? Cole Calhoun can't swing a bat this year at all. He's been absolutely garbage at the plate, but one of the best defenders in the league. So the Angels, again, are a team that's going to, at least as long as they stay healthy, they're going to be a clear number 2. But again, if they don't stay healthy, that's where I think the Mariners can at least stay in that race for the wild card in the West.
Last thing I want to mention to you, and this is one that I almost put down, but I couldn't find up a good topic for it, so I'll ask it here as a throwaway at the end. What are you thinking about the Braves right now? I was looking at them leading their division.
They're fun, man.
And I'm like, I can't tell if this is because they're a real good team or if it's just their schedule might not be the hardest right now.
No, it's something that, again, this is a young team, and I think it's nothing to do with their schedule. Baseball isn't something where it's like football. Like, I mean, if you're a good team, you're going to beat teams. If you're red hot, you have that confidence you're going to beat teams.
I can't tell if it's like, hey, we haven't played a ton of the playoff contenders yet. Wait until we get into that stretch.
No, they're playing the Cubs right now. And they should have beat the Cubs last night on 2 bad calls. At least Ricky's gonna sneeze.
Almost did. I did not.
They should have beat the Cubs last night because there's a play at home. I know it's horrible to talk about stuff this late, but I'm going to talk about it anyways.
Go ahead.
Horrible play. Camargo runs home, pass ball to Contreras. Clearly home. It's clearly safe at home. Camargo should have been a 2-1 game there for Atlanta. Atlanta challenges it. It's not overturned, even though there was an angle that clearly shows Camargo safe at home. And then I believe it was there was no outs on that play. It was runners on first and third. Then I think it was Culberson was on second. He goes and steals third on a pass ball. He was safe as well, but didn't have a challenge to override the call, so they got screwed there. Then I think Acuna goes deep, or Asuna. I got to learn his pronunciation. But he goes deep, makes it a 2-1 game, but then the Cubs are able to rally in the ninth and take a 3-2 lead. If those runs, at least if the Camargo run was at least called the correct way, would have been a tie game, 3-3, and then also they would have had a runner on third with no outs. So that would have been something that could have been possibly 4-3, or at least kept the inning going where they don't have 2 outs and they have runners on. So, but Atlanta so far has been able to at least go up against big level competition and win so far. I think the biggest thing for them is as long as these the youth players on their team are able to stay within themselves. If Albies is able to stay within himself and at least still be able to produce and not start swinging at bad pitching and is able to stay composed. Same with Ronald Acuna, a guy that's able to stay composed. Same with even you look at their rotation. If Sean Newcomb's able to stay composed, because this kid has ace material. This is a team that playing in this ballpark. has veteran leadership in Freddie Freeman, Nick Markakis, Kurt Suzuki as well. And if they're able to at least stay within themselves, especially these young players, this is a team that can easily win the NL West while the Nationals are still injured, with Rendon still banged up, with Murphy still banged up, with now the Eaton's situation looking bleak, where he possibly might not play again this season. The Braves are hitting their time, are red hot at the right time, especially with the Nationals being injured. I think this is a team that could be a playoff team for sure and possibly make some noise.
The thing I find funny, ESPN, and I was like, oh, should we do it as a topic for today? And we're not going to talk about it, but I'll mention it anyways. They had an article, are the Yankees still the front runners for Bryce Harper this offseason? Basically, with the Nationals where they are now, is he going to want to stay? Is he
based on
go?
Injuries? I don't know. Bryce, though, you look at his numbers.
That is something for a lesser, let's go down the line, after trade deadline, but it's interesting.
Watch out for Bryce Harper in the months of June, July, and August, because you look at his numbers, his plate discipline so far has been it's been higher than elite so far.
Let me ask you this.
And his downside so far has just been hitting balls directly at fielders. When Bryce gets going, Bryce might have an unreal June through August.
This is an off-the-cuff question.
Yeah.
If you are the Nationals.
Yes.
And it comes to end of July, and you fear that there is a 90% chance Bryce Harper leaves. Okay. I was just throwing it out there.
You do your absolute best.
If there is a 90% chance that he could be gone, do you pull that trigger to try to get something?
You do your absolute best to throw as much money in the world at him. You do the best you do your best job to sell him on Washington. You do not trade him just because you fear he might leave. This isn't like the NBA. You can shell out more money than any other team because there's no cap. Bryce Harper, again, if you have to pay him $500 million, I would rather play for $500 million than trade away, possibly the second best player in baseball behind Mike Trout. Just to trade him because I fear he might leave. You still have a shot at getting him. We don't know what Bryce Harper is thinking going on, so I think it's totally well within the realm of possibility that the Nationals still re-sign Bryce Harper. So no, I would not trade him at all.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think about Robinson Cano, the PED. Well, the diuretic suspension, but it's technically PED.
Well, it's labeled as PED, so we're not wrong saying it's a PED.
Let us know what you think about that, about his Hall of Fame legacy. Also, if you want to be on a podcast, check out patreon.com/mostvaluedpodcast. If you want an MVP t-shirt, check out our store link down below in the description. You can go to Apple Podcast, Apple iTunes, and rate all of the MVP podcasts on iTunes. The Rick and Johnny podcast, the Primetime podcast, the not the Outcast. We're still working on getting them on iTunes.
Dummy.
The Onside Kick is what I meant to say. And then even a graphic conversation as well. And the last thing I was going to say, mostvaluedpodcast.com is where you get everything for MVP each and every day.
And I also want to say, check out my Flickster profile. Flickster.com's /BigBoy10.
Do you really have a Flickster?
Yeah, go check it out. Flickster.com/BigBoy10.
All right, Big Boy 10. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.